Good morning, everybody, and Happy New Year. You're tuned to Computers 2K now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next couple hours, along with Spence.
Good morning. Happy New Year.
Good morning, Happy New Year. And Gal is here.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Here we go.
Nick will join us, I guess, a little bit later. And maybe Katie, too. Our number is 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And today's show is made possible by vMix Software and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. So it's a whole brand new year. Just unwrapped it.
It's completely different than last year.
It's completely different. That year passed quick.
It's kind of interesting when one of the main discussions going on for predictions for this year is who's going to attack who. Reading a thing this morning by an analyst saying the top 5 worldwide disturbances that could turn into major things. Like, oh God.
Yeah, that's a shame when you get down to people actually discussing that. But that's life.
You look back
Be
at
so pessimistic.
no, I'm actually optimistic. I think there's a lot of good things that could happen this year. You look at history, things always go in cycles. So I think we're getting to the bottom of our cycle. We go up.
Well, I really hope so.
It's going to be. Yeah.
Listen to you.
I mean, I think we got enough of bad news up until this point, right?
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
enough. Come on,
Yeah.
enough.
Yuppers. So, what is happening technically?
Nothing.
You know
No
what?
no new innovation, no new products. Nothing.
No, but products are no longer. Some products are no longer. One is DarkSky for iOS. I don't understand this. It's
Dark
still
Sky, that's the
The web-
jailbreaking?
the weather.
Oh, okay.
So the time has come. DarkSky, the mostly beloved weather app for iOS, is going to stop working on January 1st, today, according to in-app warning. They've been talking about it for a long time.
Just on iOS,
Just on iOS.
it'll still be available for Android.
It's available on Android. It's available on a computer.
Ooh.
But-
Must be some kind of a dispute with Apple
I don't know.
or something.
The sunsetting has been in the forecast for a while. Apple announced it was planning on shutting down the service last year after acquiring it in 2020. And it removed DarkSky from the App Store a few months ago. But if you've been putting off finding a new weather app, now's the time to finally get around to it. As for what alternatives iPhone users have available, because the Android app was axed in 2020, they say, but it's still working. Perhaps the most obvious is Apple Apple's own built-in weather app.
Did you say they
Hmm.
bought DarkSky?
Yeah.
Apple bought them.
Apple bought them in
Oh,
2020.
well, that's like
Uh,
buy your competitor to shut them down.
well, the company even has a support document titled How Dark Sky Users Can Use the Apple Weather App, which talks about how features from the former have been added to the latter. So I guess they have their own weather app, but I
Oh,
mean,
they do. And I completely understand what they did now because they bought the competitor. Now they have hooked into Android weather apps, and they have their own app. So makes perfect sense.
yeah, but Dark Sky continues to work on
No, it
Android.
will. That's okay. But Apple owns it now, and they can
Yeah.
manipulate it, and they can develop it, and they can steer. They'll take the best features and merge it together, and then it'll be an Apple app. It's funny because Apple, they used to be into apps and games and things, and they got out of it, meaning for purchase.
Dark
Um,
Sky is a
yeah.
very good weather forecast. It's a very good weather app.
Think about all of these weather apps, though. They get their data
Mhm. Oh,
from the same exact source,
I
right?
would think so,
So
but
does it really matter which app you're using?
No, actually, I look at the splash page on Dark Sky. It says Dark Sky's forecast technology is now enhanced and integrated with the all new Apple Weather Service. Bang,
well,
powered by Apple Weather. So, and I looked at it, I said, wait, that looks just like Apple Weather. And sure enough, okay. And
yeah,
the Dark Sky API goes away March 31st, so you'll have to use the Apple API.
the Dark Sky what?
API.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
when I was saying about the National Weather Service app, they've greatly enhanced the quality of their app, especially the radar app. Very good. I still use, I have Apple on my phone. I didn't delete it, just left it there, but I typically use AccuWeather.
that's a
Um,
good one.
that's a good one. Yeah. But I'm not paying everything, keep hounding me about getting the premium version. It's like, there's nothing in it that I care about.
I mean, it's nice to be able to see what's going on really in the area. Um, and I think Nick explained a few times, especially the radar. You want to see, and you want to see which way it's going to go. And even though it's a prediction, but it's pretty scientific. And you would look at weather.com, and it's almost like everything is happening automatically, regardless of anything, because many times what they say is not really what's going on.
Especially when you talk about temperature predictions and
Yeah.
rain.
Dark Sky was always good. AccuWeather was always, always good. I stopped even looking at Channel 5 because in a few times that it was important, like when we had parades and things like that, um, they would, or it seems like it, they would forecast on the bad side, which it could have been bad. But whenever there is something that they're involved in, any activity, they forecast on the brighter side. It's just, and many times people get caught.
Are you saying
I,
weather with an agenda?
so yeah, oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So I stopped.
No,
I mean,
interesting.
long time ago, I stopped looking at that. Um,
Sometimes their coverage of a weather event that goes on, they'll have continuous coverage going on for hours. Now, I'm okay with that for tornadoes and things that could be sudden impact
oh
on
yeah,
neighborhoods.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're covering another part of the country and it continues to go on and on. It's like, wait a second, what are you doing here?
We are national.
Yeah. That something happened the other day. Oh, when Barbara Walters passed away, they started where they did a like a 1 hour interrupt and did her, and that's okay. It's ABC did this, and it's her she's their person. Obviously, she was admired and all that. I understand, but
Well,
they preempted. We had recorded whatever was on ABC when that came on,
mhm.
so the whole second third or the last third of the show was gone because it was
Yeah, I
preempted.
mean that I understand that they can do that, and they do that. They preempt, and but anyway. So, Gal, which do you use any weather app?
I don't seek a specific one.
Okay.
Whatever the
Yeah.
Android ecosystem has, I don't really care. I don't care for it to be too accurate. I just need to know the general range
Mhm.
of temperature and if it's going to rain.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever's baked in. I'm not seeking any specifics.
I love
I know.
AccuWeather.
I know Nick will be appalled, but
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
But the AccuWeather will say rain starting in 2 minutes, rain ending in 6 minutes, and they
well,
have a
that's
little
how it
wheel.
is in dark
Yeah,
sky.
yeah,
The drizzle ends in, yep.
and it won't work unless you have your location service turned on for that app, or it's just not accurate, obviously. So it knows where you are. I used to use all the time Ariel's not interactive. Yeah, I guess it was an interactive weather app for radar because you could go and like look at your house
Yeah.
and then look at the intensity of the weather based on the Doppler radar, which was interesting.
Yeah, I don't use any quote unquote app. I just go to the
Yeah,
browser and look.
yeah. I mean, this was the browser too, but
Yeah.
that's where I first started using it was in the browser.
All right. So, um, the Surface earbuds. I never knew that Microsoft had their own earbuds for the Surface.
okay,
Is that what it is?
probably. I mean, not haven't
Well,
heard about it.
as
So.
the Surface earbuds are a weird product in Microsoft's line of Surface devices. Now over 2 years old and still available to buy at a close to launch price of $160. The Surface earbuds might be the worst Surface branded device you can buy brand new right now. They launched at a time when the wireless earbud space was heating up and offered less than the competition while charging more. Are they the best in audio quality? Definitely not. Are they the best designed? Most would argue that they aren't. Are they the most comfortable? That depends. And the writers say, but I know a lot of people claim they don't properly fit in their ears. Do
Do
they
you see a
support?
picture of them? Did you look at a picture of them?
No.
It's like you're wearing. It's like a round tab
Like
Well,
a
that sits in
plug,
your
a plug.
flat tab.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you look at the close up of it, and it looks incredibly uncomfortable.
Like a drain plug.
Yeah, and it has nothing. It's like I have the Bose. I have Bose Quiet Comfort uh, noise reducing earbuds,
mhm.
and they you stick them in and you turn them, and they lock in your ear because they have a thing that goes very comfortable too. They're a little big, but uh, they're so comfortable. It's amazing. I don't even feel like I'm wearing them.
Yeah.
But these do not look comfortable, and they can't have a very good battery life. They're tiny.
It says, do they support wireless charging? Nope.
No, it
Is the
doesn't.
case premium? He says, mine scratches easily and the lid feels flimsy. Nothing about the product screams $160 premium earbud. That's it's a very bad
Did you see the
review, but it's
on
a one-man review here, and I don't,
which review was it? I'm looking at the one on Windows Central, and it says Microsoft's $200 Surface earbuds have seemingly been abandoned.
yeah, they have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep.
It wouldn't be the first time Microsoft
They decided
did
they're
that.
not going to do anything with them anymore.
Yeah. I had an interesting with the latest, whatever the latest Windows 10 update I put on my Lenovo laptop was. I had a USB mouse that I would take with me because the Surface, I'm sorry, not Surface, the Lenovo trackpad can be intimidating because of the different zones that they have. So if you're not careful, you will do things you don't want to do. But I had this mouse and I traveled when I went to Alaska this year. I had it with me. It worked great. I plug it in now and I go to a web page and uncontrollably it keeps zooming in.
Hmm.
As soon as I disconnect the mouse, it goes away. And it's not a stuck button. And I tried it on another machine. It works fine. No issues. So there's something about Lenovo. So I made sure I went and I downloaded the Microsoft, there's a Microsoft mouse, Microsoft app, the latest one, installed that, made no difference. But uncontrollable zooming for some reason. But you have to touch the control key, but you don't have, normally zooming is control plus or minus, so zoom in, zoom out with most browsers. And you would have to hold the control down and hold down on the minus to get it to go. But as soon as you let go, it would zoom in again. So I can't use it.
Some things.
It's
Gal,
old though.
Did you try
using
put it in the dishwasher?
I didn't try that yet. After that, I can drive over with a car a couple of times. It's
Gal,
old. I mean,
you
I'm not
use-
unhappy.
you're using Google Voice, right?
Yep.
Google has
What
announced
have they done now? What have they done now?
that it's adding a red suspected spam caller warning to Google Voice calls if it doesn't think they're legitimate. In a post on Thursday, the company says it's identifying spam using the same advanced artificial intelligence system as it does with its traditional phone app for Android. If the spam label appears, you'll also have the option of confirming that a call was spam, in which case any future calls will be sent straight to your voicemail, or clarifying that it wasn't, which will get rid of the label for future calls. So, I mean, it's nice.
It's nice. It's great. I mean, I don't get a lot of random calls, right? I mean, I don't use the phone number a lot. And mostly I use it for outgoing calls, not for incoming calls. So I'm not too worried. Uh, I, I mean, the only thing I care about Google Voice are two things. One, don't shut it down. And two, stop treating it as an unwanted app. The apps on the phone, while they are functional, they're not convenient. They're not hooked up to the ecosystem of the phone. They're always this foreign um, object there. So at least they're not shutting it down. At least
No,
not
and I don't think
that-
they
that-
will. I mean, if they were thinking about this, they would have done it some time ago.
I think
'Cause-
so. I hope so. It's just they're not giving it any love. I mean, this
No.
isn't even giving it love. This is just slapping something on it. So I'm just hesitant with any move they make.
Um,
And we got Nick.
Good
we
morning.
have
Happy
Nick.
New Year.
Good morning.
We have lunch.
You have arrived.
What time did you get in?
around midnight.
Oh,
That's when the party started.
um,
Before we go on, I want to mention something weird. I just got me interested in looking for another wireless mouse. So I went to Amazon. I'm scrolling down. Amazon Basics wireless computer mouse. Uh, you, what does it tell you about the product if you can just subscribe and save on it? It's there. So subscribe and save.
good.
Save 50 cents if you subscribe and save.
Send me a new one
Is it
every
that
month.
bad?
Mouse.
Oh, wait, my new mouse is coming. Yes, too. Oh, it's funny. I don't think they meant to do that.
Nick,
I think you have just created a new special section for Nick. Nick, you need to always add one subscribe and save item.
Okay, I've already started doing the weird expensive items. I can
yeah,
body wishes. I can do that as well.
that's
Oh,
what I
that's
was going to
always-
ask.
always
If
fun.
you noticed on that $15,000 commode, if it says subscribe. and
No, that wasn't
save.
from Amazon. Though.
Oh yeah, subscribe and save.
Did it say something about in a commode warning, do not use in the southern hemisphere because it requires the water to spin in one direction and not the other?
I did see on the airplane back here when I was in the bathroom. It said I had never used an airplane bathroom before, and it or on the actual flight, and it said do not flush while sitting. So I guess it's a pretty big vortex that they create there on 35,000 feet.
It's the kind of the reason why they have little spacers between the toilet seat and the actual toilet itself, so air can get in there. You don't want to be sitting on it when they.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, there was a very clear button next to the label, so obviously
Yeah,
somebody's made
yep.
that mistake a time or two. Or
Mm,
Oh yeah,
I
okay.
think it's not as sinister as you think. It's just if there's not enough air coming in, nothing will happen and maybe a splash. So
oh no, I'm convinced you get sucked through the bottom of the plane.
I know that's what everybody thinks. It's usually a lot simpler.
Anywho, is who's using Waze?
Waze.
Waze,
do.
as far as
I recently stopped using it.
oh,
I did.
Some
I did
awful
too.
problems with the app.
I wasn't having problems with the app. I was having problems with navigation. Taking you
App
off,
just
like
performed.
get off the highway, go off a little ways, turn around, come back, get on the same highway again.
Mhm.
Doing weird stuff.
so it
I
the,
the
go ahead.
app performance over the last couple of months has been awful. I mean, like when I was up in Raleigh a couple weeks ago, I started. Obviously, I know the route from my house to Raleigh. It's just stay on I-40. But it's nice to see when there's police or if there's a traffic jam, it'll reroute you. And the app was just awful. As I was driving, the landscape wasn't loading, and you might think, oh, that's a cell phone network issue, but it happened like 3 different times. And I'm very familiar with the cell service on I-40. There is one dead spot. This was on either side of those dead spots. Um, so I deleted it. I've had awful performance with it. Awful.
So the article here goes a new beta version of the Google-owned app, as reported by Israeli tech news site Geek Time, can alert users about roads that have statistically high crash occurrences based on Waze community data. While using this new beta version of Waze, nearby roads deemed to be high risk are colored red on the map. Although Geek Time points out that it may not do this for roads that the user often travels on, the feature also only pushes just one pop-up notification about the dangerous roads around the driver, perhaps in an effort to keep precaution from turning into anxiety. So, Oh, I'm coming on a road where there's gonna be there's a history of uh crashes. Slow down.
Well, I
Uh,
think this comes to Spence's point. This idea of rerouting you off of the interstate for,
mhm.
3 miles just to get you back on the interstate because there could be an accident in that area. I mean, I get it. I understand wanting to be proactive. Um, I'm just not sure I want my GPS to be proactive. I think proactive is great in a lot of aspects. I'm just not sure it is with the GPS.
I have a traditional GPS that has traffic data, and it's not available everywhere. It's a radio system that some cities do, and
Yeah,
I
it's through
find that to
HD
be
radio
yeah, I
actually
find
through
that
a
to be
traditional
a little more
broadcast.
accurate if it's available, and certainly not as intimidating.
That's offered in markets where iHeartRadio exists. They own a service called TTW, Total Traffic and Weather, and they provide if you have a car that's got the full nav system, you can click on Get Weather or Get Traffic, and it actually comes over. It's over radio signals. It's a digital bit stream.
Is that
That's
like
over a sub.
RDS?
Is it like what?
RDS? Yeah,
Yeah,
similar?
except
Yeah,
it's RDS is analog. This is
yeah,
only digital. So
digital.
it's in markets where iHeart has HD radio operating. They have a subcarrier of their service TTW, which is neat.
I remember first time I ever saw RDS, I was driving in Germany. This is years in the 90s, and I didn't even had no idea what it was, and it's not available in the United States. And it was amazing because you could see scrolling, it'll tell you what station you were connected to, what the song was, and I was like, wow. Plus information about the road, and I was I was amazed. I said, wow, they're way ahead of us at the time, anyway.
For folks that aren't familiar with RDS, that's the that's
Roadway,
the
this
title and song and all that stuff.
yeah, RDS roadway display system, I think it is.
Radio data system.
Radio data system. But it would also do if there was an accident or something, they could push stuff
Yeah,
out.
that's actually a feature
Yeah.
of RDS that is not used. It's called there's a tag in RDS called traffic alert. So presumably a station you were listening to could send out a traffic alert, and it would pop up on your display. But that has not. I don't know of any market or stations that actually use that because
I have an idea. We need to find and hire people to sit at all interchanges and just provide live traffic updates. And
Yeah.
you call the specific number to find out what's happening at that intersection, and that person will tell you.
That's
you
what
do
we
that down here with the bridge. You call the bridge tender and ask if there's any openings.
Yeah, why not?
So still
AI.
AI.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if the definition of AI gets a little watery,
Right.
but this feature of proactive driving, that's kind of getting very close to the line of AI. It's not,
Huh.
it's predictive, it's using past things, but that's what AI does. AI uses things that are fed into it to learn and to make things. So this will it's the line is very blurry on what is AI and what is just machine learning. There's a lot of these different terms that I think are all kind of in one.
There's a popular hearing aid commercial that's on all the time where they make a big deal. Oh, it's AI is what decides how to process the sound.
Yeah.
Mm,
Well, and it again, if you depending on your definition of AI, if
AI,
it's
yeah.
using any sort of machine learning you could make the argument that your smart speaker has got AI because it can learn your voice. Is it technically AI? Not really.
No. No.
No, you see,
But
the
that claim
processing
could be made.
power of this is greatly enhanced. I agree, but it's not going to be communicating with the mothership to get more instructions or more information. It's limited. So I bought new Philips hearing aids recently, and I was amazed at the difference between the technology from 5 years ago and now.
Oh, I'm
It's
sure.
incredible, and the I'm finally at the point now where I can use hearing aids and actually understand what the hell people are saying because it knows how to process it for my specific needs. So that's amazing.
Yep. That's
I
what I
th-
need.
I think when it comes to AI, this is actually an important topic because we're going to talk about AI more and more and more. The technology that is titled AI, right, is getting more and more noticeable with more and more complex tools. And so when it comes to something like Waze or Google Maps, uh, we are leaving the realm of the technology because we're already used to the technology. We know how GPS apps are supposed we are supposed to interact with them and what type of data they're supposed to give us. And I do feel specifically with Google, because they have both Google Maps and Waze, right? They are probably using Waze as a sort of a testing ground for behavior, for to see how drivers accept certain new aspects of the app, and they mature these into the Google Maps. I don't have any inside information. I just this is the way I feel always when I'm using those two apps and the differences between them. So the idea of showing um, statistical crashes on a road, for example, that in itself isn't AI. That's just data collection, very effective. Uh, AI would come into play there in determining when to show you the information and what to do with that information, right? Because those are going, the part that needs to change all the time is how people are reacting to that data, right? So the model of AI is all about we we made a program, right? We made a computer program that we didn't tell it in advance how to behave. Instead, we are letting it behave in what at first seems like a random pattern, and we're just training it with data on how to interact with the world, right? So um, that's what that is what the buzzword AI right now means. Okay, it needs to be very very clear. It is not unlike we can teach a computer the set of rules about chess, right? But for an AI to develop chess strategies of its own, it'll need to try the game on its own and get feedback on what's right and what's not. And here, Google Maps, Waze, it's just a huge chess game, right? That it plays. We can go back to the old 80s movies, where war games, right?
Damn you! You
It's
stole it.
yeah, yeah, it's practically that, right? So it's and this is what we're facing today. That technology is in our hands. It has been manipulating us for quite a long time right now, right? And we've been using it and training it, and it all depends on the data we feed it. And uh, although we do not have any control, you
Well, and I
take
get
that with the tools that are coming in today, right? Not only Waze, right? It's pretty amazing.
let's talk about the Waze thing though, because I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. So let's say you travel a road I-40 coming out of Raleigh south towards Wilmington. There's a crash there, probably like 50% of the time. Right? They set a threshold in their app, or they. The question is, do they program the threshold, or does the app, or does the machine learning over time play with those numbers until it finds the sweet spot? Because that's what you're describing, right? If I say if condition is met, do this. That's not AI. That's just simply a condition. That's no different than any other program over the last 60 or 70 years. It's when you
Right,
have a floating threshold that the computer decides what it wants to do. As you mentioned, back to war games.
right,
How many rockets do I shoot off before I win the war? The answer is, of course, none, because it always ends in
right.
the same thing. So that's the real question: is how are they doing it? Are they setting a set criteria, or are they allowing truly some sort of AI to adjust based on who knows?
So
Maybe they're experimenting with it, and that's why we're seeing these things happening.
I think they have to, because I think there's
that's what I'm
too
thinking.
many parameters for them to set, right? You got to look at the time of day. Is it a holiday? I mean, I guess you could presumably set all of those parameters, but it seems like it would
weather
be a
conditions.
huge pain. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
there's a
just
lot to
there's
that,
just
you're right.
so much there. Now it could be done. I mean, it's no different than an airplane is programmed, right? An airplane doesn't use AI to fly, thank God. So all those conditions and parameters could be set, but I'm not sure that for a traffic app it makes sense. Um, John is asking, is there a better alternative to Waze? Google Maps has all of the Waze features, except you can't report things.
Right.
It shows
You can.
all of the Waze traffic.
You can, but you
Can you?
can.
Oh,
Yes.
didn't know.
I literally had this discussion yesterday with somebody and I showed them
Oh.
the same controls, exact same controls, at least on the Android app, right? I'm using Android. And let's see. So once you are in the map, oh no, if the camera will capture.
Yeah, too much
there's
glare.
an-
Let just let Gal talk, so he'll stay up.
Let me try again. So you see that talkie like icon over here.
Okay.
Once you click that, you get the options to report speed trap, report the slowdown, report construction, exactly like Waze. What you can't do in Google Maps that you can do in Waze is draw new roads,
New
right?
routes.
Because no, so Waze, the map information that comes into Waze comes from its users.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a new road, for example, all you need to do in your app is enter road paving mode, something like
Okay.
that. And so the GPS data is transferred back, and volunteers, like a Wikipedia editor, right? They monitor new submissions, and they go in and they edit it. They add the information collected. Based on the information collected, they add the street names. You can do it on your own. The street names, the speed limit, stop signs, stuff like that. Everything is being fed in by users. That does not exist in Google Maps, but the reporting of road conditions that exists there for a while now.
Yeah, I see it now.
It does exist in iOS. I got to add a report. You've got
Yeah,
7
you have
options.
to be in navigation to do it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In route. Yeah.
In route. Waze, you can do a report just from the home screen. And the reason I didn't notice it's because you have to be inside of navigation.
Okay, so
Right,
so
right.
to
Yeah.
answer John's question, why is Google Maps better than Waze?
Same.
So that's what I'm saying. I think it's a matter of Waze being at this point, right? After Google bought them,
Mm-hmm.
years after they bought them. Waze seems to be the testing bed for new approaches, new logic, new technology, new features. And Google Maps seems to be the stable one.
Oh.
One thing I can say, I prefer Google Maps on for Waze because practically they're almost identical today. Google Maps, while you're driving, when you're getting to an intersection that creates an alternative route, on the display, it shows you this other route will either be the same or slower or faster. And that is important, especially if something hasn't been established yet. So there's no blockage that can be detected yet, but there is some sort of slowdown. And suddenly an alternative route will seem to be faster by a minute or two, or even the same, while you as the driver, that usually going through there will be I don't know, 10 minutes more,
Mhm.
right? Uh, it can be a prompt for you, the driver, that maybe I should take the alternative route, and you get to see that while uh, uh, while you're moving across the route. You don't need to touch any button and say recalculate or anything like that. So yeah, Google Maps seems to be the stable version.
One
Is
of
it
the
the
early
best? I don't know.
one of the early criticisms of Waze, and I saw this in action, was reroutes that would take you on very obscure routes. They would take you through neighborhoods
Yes.
to get to, and people started to complain to say, wait, all of a sudden the traffic through our neighborhood has increased because it's a chosen route for certain times of day to avoid congestion at this intersection. They would take it through. And it doesn't seem to be doing that anymore.
And one of
Yeah,
the
I think they changed the way they score.
Yeah.
This is by the way, this is a criticism of mine on this. I haven't found a single app that will allow me to adjust the parameters I care about when choosing a route, right? I
Mm.
would love to see something like that. I don't care if you can give me a route that is up to 4 minutes faster, right? If I can do, if I can drive inside the city instead of going to the highway, for example. I don't care that the highway will give me a faster lane, a faster route, right? There are certain parameters that I care about more, and they're not an option for me as a user. So I would love to see something that would allow me to guide that AI better to suit me.
All
one of
right.
the key features of Waze versus Google Maps is, as I mentioned, while you're in Waze, a lot of people just have the app open when they're driving around. They don't have a destination set, and they can report things. You can't do that with Google Maps. You have to be in, you have to have a route select. So, like, for example, I don't set my GPS to drive to the grocery store down the street, but I could open Waze and say, hey, there's an accident here. Google Maps, the only way I could do that is if I had a navigation set to the grocery store, which makes sense. Waze whole thing is user reporting. Google Maps is really not.
But that is changing with Android Auto and uh, car mode.
App CarPlay.
Yeah, CarPlay in iOS. Because when you connect your phone, you are automatically opening your default navigation app, right? And if that's Google, then you get the Google Maps, and Google Maps is there. You're not using it to enter a specific route, right? But it's still showing you the information. I don't know about reporting that.
You
I
can't
need to
report.
check. I don't know, on the Android app,
I don't know
on
about
the
the Android app. I
auto.
know on the.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm talking about the auto when it displays
Oh,
on the
okay. I
dashboard.
see. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is probably the only time that the application actually starts up, right? And you haven't entered the route,
Yeah.
and it's showing you the map. There is, I do remember on the phone they were pushing it for a while. I don't see it anymore, but there was something called driving mode in the app itself. So yeah, you maybe need to move into driving mode if you, even if you didn't enter a specific route.
All right. All right. Nick, you ready to do the specials?
I am.
All right.
So it is the first of the year. So do you have your, Spence probably has one of these installed in his computer, the year 2000 BIOS update card. This will
Absolutely.
automatically update your computer to work with dates past December 31st, 1999. An estimated 90% of PCs will fail to function correctly, according to this box. Don't get caught in the turn of the century crunch. It supports year 2000 date change automatically. It makes your BIOS 100% Y2K compatible. It fits in any 8-bit ISA slot and is compatible with virtually all computer systems. So this
Nick,
is the
this is appropriate for a different multiverse than us. See, we avoided it, but the other multiverse They went down the tubes because they didn't update the fire.
This is a video from LGR. I haven't watched it, but I did grab the screenshot. So I'm going to watch this today and see what this device does. And then, of course, you've got your Best Buy sticker reminding you to turn off your computer before midnight or all hell will break loose. And then, of course, you have your other products that are Y2K compliant. So about the only time of year that you can talk about Y2K stuff. All right, here we go. Let's get it started off with a television over at Amazon. Here is the Hisense 58-inch quantum dot LED 4K UHD smart Fire TV. This is a great deal on this television. You can pick it up for $349. It's normally $600. In terms of the jacks on it, it's got 4 HDMI ports. One of them supporting ARC, so you can do ARC, so you can do the audio back and forth to a sound bar. It also supports a standard definition with an AV and breakout cable, an antenna or an antenna jack, so you can hook up an antenna to it. Plus, it's got Ethernet on it as well, plus a headphone and a Toslink digital audio output for that. Check it out, 42% off. This is the best seller in QLED TVs over at Amazon, and that is a Hisense brand, and it's a 58-inch TV for $350. Is a 4K one is a pretty darn good deal. Check it out over there.
And a couple of weeks ago, I read a review, and the reviews were raving about the price, the support, and the life of Hisense. They said, no, it is a great TV. You shouldn't think twice about getting it.
What's interesting is that Hisense traditionally has been Roku TV only. They've been the big, specifically at Walmart, they've been the big brand of Roku TVs that you could buy. So now they're playing both sides of the court here with the Fire TV. So again, that's over at Amazon. Over at Staples, here's an interesting device for you. Here is the Lenovo IdeaPad 5. This is a full-size 15.6-inch laptop. It's running a 12th gen i7, a 1255U. How about this, Golf? 16 gigs of RAM and a 512 gigabyte solid-state drive. Kind of crappy to see just a half a terabyte drive in a computer with these specs. It's 37% off.
An i5.
It's an i7.
16.
They just
an
call
i7.
it 5. But that's weird. That they
The
call it
i7,
5.
16 gigabytes of RAM.
But only half a terabyte.
Yeah, that's a
of storage
no-brainer.
space.
I don't care about the storage too much, actually.
No, but my point. So here's the thing: this laptop MSRP is for $870. If I'm spending nearly $900 on a laptop, you can throw an extra 512 gigs in there. Give me a full terabyte. Now it is on sale, but nevertheless, you can get it for $539. So it's still an expensive device. But boy, this thing is a workhorse of a machine. I love my Lenovo IdeaPad.
What generation of
12?
It's the 12th generation.
It is. Yep. So it's a 1255U. It is a steal.
This machine is going to last for at least 5 years.
Oh,
right?
I would make the
whoever
argument
buys
more.
it. That's why I'm saying at least, right? If you treat it well. Does it have USB-C power delivery?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and it does. So it does have USB-C power delivery, no barrel jack, which is what you would expect. When you get into these higher tier computers that are $900, that's pretty typical.
So this is even a thunder wire, right? How it's called?
Thunderbolt?
Thunderbolt, right? This is a fantastic price.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
If somebody was holding up, waiting to buy a work machine for a while, this is a no-brainer. This is an excellent price. I agree.
Courtesy of Staples, free pickup in store, or you could get it delivered straight to your house. So check that out over there. All right, next up,
Amnon, please check with Staples and make sure that we get the check, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Next up, if you're building, here's a great desktop chip for you. If you scroll down a little bit, Amnon, here is the AMD Ryzen 7 5700X. This is the 5th generation Ryzen 7. clocked at 3.4 gigahertz. This is the AM4 socket. This is just a really good tier Ryzen 7. This chip's normally $300. You can get it over at Newegg for 34% off. Save just over $100. $196.97 plus they'll ship it to your house for free. So if you're in the market for a new computer build, I love my AMD Ryzen series. If I had to build another, if my computer today exploded and I had to build a new one, there's no doubt in my mind I'd put another AMD Ryzen in it. So check that out over at Newegg. Next up, this is by far the best deal of the week. This is an Amazon Basics 192 kilohertz DAC, a digital to analog converter, for $3.90. I ordered this. It'll be here this week just because it was so cheap I couldn't afford not to. So you eat out of one of these, if you get a new television and maybe you're trying to hook it to an older surround sound system that doesn't have digital audio inputs, or maybe you're trying to connect it to a set of bookshelf speakers that just have RCA in, you're going to need a way to get that digital audio, which is either via Toslink or coaxial, it's the orange plug, into traditional analog audio, the red and white RCA cables. This is a way to do it, and you're not literally will not find a better deal than this for $3.90. It comes with the device, a micro USB cable to plug it in, a Toslink cable, and a headphone to RCA breakout cable. So I would make the argument that the accessories are worth more than $3.90. Check this out over at Amazon. Mine will be here this week. I don't have a use for it right now, but if I ever do, it's normally $14. Get it for $3.90. A steal of a deal over there. Next up, Spence, you were looking for a mouse. How about this for you? This is the TechNet Bluetooth wireless mouse. It supports Bluetooth and 2.4 gigahertz wireless. So it comes with a dongle that you can use. Or if you have a newer computer, you can connect it directly via Bluetooth and pair it that way. It's got 2 buttons on the side for forward and back that are programmable. It runs up to 2400 DPI, and it can connect to anything that's got Bluetooth or anything with the USB port, as long as you plug in the adapter or the little dongle with it. So you can check that out for $5.75 over at Amazon.
Does it have subscribe and save?
It does not.
Oh,
I'm clicking on
This
it now.
one is for Gal, this next one, and I have a little asterisk on it, and I'll wait until I get to that. This is the Eero, I think it's Eero, ERRO or Aero, Wi-Fi 6 Ethernet wireless router. Gal, I'll start by asking, have you ever heard of this device?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Are you
have.
familiar with one of the
Since it's day one, actually.
Are you familiar with one of the amazing features of this device?
The meshing.
No. Well, yes, but no. The Eero 6 has a built-in Zigbee hub. So for $99,
yeah.
you get a 3-mesh wireless access point system plus a smart home hub. So you can now essentially dive headfirst into home automation and things like that with a full wireless router. I'm tempted to pick this up for $99. It's normally on sale at Walmart. They've got the MSRP listed for $115. Amazon's got it for about $140. So you plug the master unit in to your modem or whatever's providing you internet, and then the 2 other wireless devices connect mesh. I assume it uses it might use Zigbee to do the data back and forth. I'm not exactly sure how the meshes connect, but it is wireless, so you don't have to have Ethernet run to all of the access points. Plus, you get a Zigbee smart hub built right into it. I thought that was super, super cool. You can check that out over at Walmart for $99. Next
That
up,
would be cool, but right now, I think that's still the case, you will only be able to control Zigbee devices through their application.
I don't.
So it doesn't seem like it can hook up easily, at least, to an ecosystem like Home Assistant.
What makes you say that?
Just a quick search. People with
Okay.
Home Assistant and Zigbee, it's like they asking questions. I don't see any answers.
Okay. So
Yeah.
maybe a little bit more research on that. But it is, if you are interested in jumping into some sort of smart home stuff and you're in the marketplace for a new router, kill two birds with one stone with this. Check it out over at Walmart. Next up, we head on over to Costco. $99 for the Apple TV 4K 64 gigabyte second generation device. This is normally about $170 device. And you can pick this up over at Costco. You can get it either in store or have it shipped directly to your house. A bunch of retailers have got this on sale, so you might be able to find this at other places as well. It seems like Apple's running a sale on their Apple TVs this week. This one I just happened to find over at Costco. Speaking of AI, here we go. Here's the Wise robot vacuum with LiDAR for room mapping. This is ideal for pet hair, hard floors, and carpets. It connects via Wi Fi to your home. It's got a smart charging dock that it will automatically bring itself back to charge and make sure that it is fully ready to go when you ask it to clean your house. And it's normally $330, and you can get it on sale for just $150 over at Walmart. And Wise is a very reputable brand. They make a lot of cameras and
I use their
locks.
cameras and other stuff, but that is a great price for a LiDAR radar, vacuum. Yeah, very good price.
It is. And now be aware with Wise stuff, you are locked into the Wise ecosystem, but they have so many devices out. They've been out for so long. The idea that they would just vanish tomorrow doesn't seem very likely, but that is something to keep an eye out on. Oh,
To add, the hardware is usually based on Xiaomi hardware,
okay.
and there's a lot of enthusiasts. I don't know about the vacuum. I know about the cameras, where you can get open source alternative to the firmware, and you get very expansive communities that work on those alternatives. So check before you decide to buy something like that, but you might be able to self-host the service that the app connects and use alternative stuff. I don't know about the vacuum. I'm talking about the cameras, but I'm guessing the vacuum ecosystem is similar.
They also have a very good alternative for Dyson. They have a Dyson knockoff that's like a third of the price of the same stick, Dyson stick.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. Jailbreak your vacuum. There's a project for you this year. Next up, we'll move on over to Amazon. This brand I've never heard of, but it is an Amazon choice device. So Amazon's got this listed as a reputable device and brand. It's the Ergear, Ergear. This is a completely electric standing desk. It'll go anywhere between 24 and 48 inches, so you can sit or stand on it. According to the details on it, and they sell, by the way, they sell different variations of size depending on what you're looking for. They claim that this can hold a max weight of about 170, 180 pounds on it, so more than enough for all of your computer equipment. They say that these motors that they're using, not the one that you'd be buying, go through testing of 50 to 100,000 up and downs, and they appear to be reliable based on that. They claim that it's got smooth movement, and you can use this as a sit or stand desk. Check it out for just $150. It's normally about a $200 device over at Amazon.
Wow.
Next up, our good friend Amnon actually passed this along to me. Here's an HP 24-inch IPS LED FHD FreeSync monitor that's available same day. That's the big thing with this. If you have a problem and your monitor dies, you can't necessarily wait a couple days for something to come from Amazon. You can head on over to Best Buy and pick this up now for $100. It's got two inputs, VGA and HDMI, very basic. It's normally $209. It's on sale for just $99. However, the deal does end in about 14 hours. So if you're maybe wanting a spare monitor or in the marketplace for a new monitor, you can get this over at Best Buy. You can, again, order it and have it shipped to the store or pick it up. For example, my Best Buy here in Wilmington has 6 of these available. So you can check that out depending on where you're at. Next up, for individuals that are maybe looking to get into their New Year's resolution is to get into some more home repair stuff. Here's a great little device. Here's the Klein Tools non-contact voltage kit. It comes with two devices here. One is a device that you plug into an outlet, and it will tell you if the outlet is wired correctly. It'll let you know if there's an open ground, neutral, or hot. It'll let you know if the outlet is reversed. So if you're trying to track down and troubleshoot some electrical issues, that's the first device. And the second is a voltage tester. Now, we're not talking about a multimeter. We're talking about a device. Looks like looks like a Sharpie. And you power it up and you can hold it next to a piece of Romex or some other wire, and it will beep and alert you whether that wire is hot or not, so that you don't accidentally grab it and give yourself a nice either 120 or 240 volts, depending on what you're playing around with. I don't have these brands, but I've got two of these similar devices from another manufacturer, and they're great, especially if you're troubleshooting a bad outlet, a bad GFCI, or something going on in your house.
A must if you're doing any kind of replacing any fixtures.
Yep.
Because just because you turn off the breaker doesn't mean that something's not wired wrong, where you're getting
Yep.
hot through a neutral or a ground. So you got to test it even after you've turned off the power.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, and this is a lot easier than having exposed wires and trying to use a
Yes.
multimeter and potentially jumping across a hot. So that's on sale for $28. There's a promo code on it though, so that's over at Amazon. Uh, Ridiculous products. God, this is right up your alley. Here's the Yamaha Advantage RX A6A. Phenomenal model number. This is a 9.2 channel AV receiver with Yamaha's proprietary music cast. This is a hell of a deal. This thing is normally $2,500. And for just the low price of $1,649, this device can be yours. This thing has, in all fairness, this thing has some crazy ports on the back of it. It's got XLR in and out. So like audio that the connector you use for a microphone or for a sound system at a bar or restaurant. It's got, let's see, 8 HDMI ports for inputs on this. So this is a full receiver plus a plethora of speaker connections at either 40 or 80 ohms, depending on what you're connecting. Plus, you can connect standard definition devices to it as well. It's got a couple of standard AV ports in it as well. So if you're in the market for a receiver and you've got $1,700 burning a hole in your pocket, well, I would argue that this Yamaha receiver over at Adorama is as good as you can get.
it'd be great for a restaurant or a bar, because if you had live music and you just needed a couple of microphones, you could send them through this with the XLR, right? Theoretically, you had a mixer, you plug it right into this. It's part of your sound system. Plus, you have all the
Yeah.
other inputs.
Yeah, it's got XLR in and out, so yeah,
Yeah.
you could do some
So
cool
it's
stuff. with that.
theoretically, it's a mixer.
Well, Spence, pick one up and let us know. Let us know.
I
how
have
works.
it already. What are you talking
Oh,
about?
great, excellent. Next up here, our final item. Here's a Govee brand. They're one of the most popular manufacturers of smart connected RGB devices. They're very popular. They make a whole bunch of different devices. This one right here is what they call their wall light system. So you can make various designs with this. You could wrap it around your TV. You could put a couple of arrows on the wall. These devices are modular, so you connect them together. You can kind of see it on the box with these kind of right angle connectors, and completely control this via your smartphone or a home assistant. The Govee is a very, very popular brand, and you can check this out over at Amazon for just $60. So if you're trying to add a little bit of flair to a office or behind the TV or something like that, this is a great way to do it. You don't have to do any wiring. There's no soldering. All the devices just connect right together. This is 7 pieces, 6 straight pieces in one corner. So that kind of tells you what you can make with this. Plus, you could buy 3 or 4 of these and connect them all together. Govee is a pretty cool company making some of these products.
And it has an interface to work with that smart toilet you recommended a few weeks ago.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because color actually helps. When you're in there and you need help
Yeah, but see, Spence, you're missing it. That smart toilet had RGB lighting built into it,
No,
so
but this
you
is
don't
an
even.
extension of it. So you can have the whole room
Yeah,
be lit up, right?
you very well could do that for just the low price of $60 plus what was that thing like $15,000. So for coming in at just under 16 grand, you can that too can be yours.
You can use
And
it
that
on the
is
door, so you let people know that somebody's
yeah,
using the
red or
bathroom.
green, absolutely. You can set up some motion detection with a Home Assistant with a little presence detector device. It'd be perfect.
Oh, thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
All right.
Change the intensity by the speed of the stream.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Scoring. Oh yeah, you're doing so well.
Come on, guys, stop it.
Gamification.
Yeah.
I wonder what AI will have to say about that. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. I was doing some cleanup in the office and the studio here, and I found an old laptop.
I have a
That
question,
yeah.
Amna. When you mean cleanup, did you take things out and throw them away, or
Yes.
just move them around?
No, I threw away. I mean, I filled up another one of those city
Okay,
carts.
we
But
approve.
no, the thing that was interesting is, I mean, there were old laptops that I used here that customers turned in, and I just put them on the side, waiting for somebody to need one. So I'll give them. But these were hiding, sort of. So I took it out and took a look, and one of them, when I opened it up, had two hard drives. I always take the hard drive out and destroy it because they're first of all they're small hard drives, and second, they have data on them that nobody has business knowing about except the original owner. But it
Okay.
had two hard drives. I'm saying, oh, interesting. So I take the first one out, unplug it, put it on the side. Take the second one, and as I'm taking it, remember these are in the old days. All these hard drives were encased in a flimsy piece of metal case, and then screwed in. It was an empty case. It was like it was made for two hard drives, but there were no cables, nothing to connect a second drive. And I think, why would they do this unless it was used also for another model? Or I didn't take the thing apart to look see if there were any cables inside, or maybe a header to plug a cable. But it was very interesting. It probably 15-year-old. It was a dual core HP that back then it had room for two drives, but then you can understand why, because the drives back then were small drive. We didn't have terabytes of drive, so I guess you could put it, but it was very interesting to see how they did that. Yeah, that was an interesting laptop. But yeah, I put out there by the street about, I don't know, 10, 11 laptop. The next day they were gone. And I think my guy, the one who comes and takes them and recycles them, makes some money out of them, is used to
He
me.
sells them for the metal.
Well, I think when you take it to the um, dump, the recycling dump, they actually give you more money per pound when it's a computer or any kind of electronics. It's not just metal, because there's hardly any metal in it. But I think they give you a bunch more money when you turning electronic. And so it's nice. I did a lot of cleanup in the last 2 3 weeks and got rid of a lot of stuff that was just worthless. If it was worth anything to anybody, I kept it. I'll wait until next year, see if somebody needs something. But yeah. Anyway, um, next step away. France's privacy watchdog fined Microsoft $64 million for not offering clear enough instructions for users to reject cookies used for online ads as part of the move to enforce Europe's tightening data protection law. So, I mean, what instructions do you need to know about how to reject cookies? It always pops up and you say allow or block. And besides, you can go and delete the cookies.
Who's getting in trouble now?
Microsoft in France.
Microsoft.
Yep. For not
I don't know.
offering
No,
clear enough instruction for users to reject cookies. I don't know.
Are they talking about Microsoft website, not or the
No,
browser?
Microsoft. I mean, the company. I have no idea.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, it's weird.
okay. So I entered Microsoft's website right now, brand new. It's probably about their website. Their
Um,
website. A lot of websites today, you go in, the first thing you
Yeah,
see is some sort of pop-up, right?
right.
We're using cookies. You
Yeah,
can either disable or
allow it or
um,
block it. Yeah,
right.
accept
So
it
I'm
or
thinking the problem is on the Microsoft website. That's the point because they don't do it. Um, don't care. I don't know.
yeah, well,
The thing is, I mean, how shall I say this?
don't say it.
No. An analogy that will somehow. This is like you stepping out of, or this is the equivalent of stepping into a mall, right?
Mhm.
And not being slapped in the face. Hey, have you noticed there are cameras watching your every move, right? Stop already.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't get where that comes from. I understand that non-technical people are not too aware about what cookies do and how they work, but warning about them will not help, right? I don't
Could it
know. This is,
could it be that they're anticipating legal action in the future, so they're protecting themselves now?
oh,
Companies, I mean, web pages, where they're putting the
no,
disclaimer
it's part of it are European laws,
regulations.
yeah.
yeah, European regulation. This started before GDPR, if I remember correctly. So GDPR is a fantastic ruling, right? It's a fantastic set of rules because it gives the the individual, the end user, it gives a lot of power, and and it's a very positive power. Okay, I am allowed to stop the tracking of myself, and I am allowed complete erasure of my data from your databases, right? This does not include like invoices and stuff, but this does include any metadata collected about me that isn't related specifically to the uh, uh, to a transaction, for example. It doesn't need to exist. So the ruling, the guidelines, the set of rules are fantastic, but the the actions around it sometimes are completely ridiculous. And part of it is that cookies. I mean, I'm grateful that some sites take it seriously and they give me an option, right, to disable most of the cookies, for example. That's great. I would rather that this would be a setting on my browser and they will just all adhere to the settings I've set on my browser, right? Instead of bugging me every single time. That's what, like, the problem is it's become cumbersome.
It's kind of like,
It's like
do
going
you,
to the doctor's office, right? And filling up those 15 minutes of forms
Yeah.
just before you can talk to them, right? This is exactly this. It's getting to that situation, an equivalent of that, of course,
I
right?
had a discussion with a local practice. I asked, so do you do my chart? My chart is a universal system for records that can be you can share with other people, other companies or medical practices that have my chart can all be shared. It's a great system. But
Right.
the guy said, I can't afford to. It's very expensive. So I have to use this patient portal thing, which is it's adequate, but can't integrate with something else. And I see the value of having the integration for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, that's
It's kind of like
the
the
world's not with that.
notification. Would you like to receive updates when you go to the webpage, right?
Yeah.
Which is almost
Oh,
every
you're
time
talking about
no.
notification,
Yeah,
live
yeah,
notification. Yeah.
yeah.
Why?
Almost always never. So it's like, oh, should be something in the browser that says never, always no to this question.
This is actually, you know what? Let's touch that for a second. So those allowing notifications, right, does not just allow notification. You are basically allowing the browser to check up with that website periodically. That website decides the period, right? And that website will be able to push notifications even if you do
Yeah.
not have a tab for that website open. This is very important for people to understand. You are allowing that website complete access to you even when you're not on that website. Uh, it also means that if you have activated any of those notifications settings and you closed your browser completely, or at least you thought so, right? That browser still has a process hanging in the background. And if a notification arises, that browser will show you a notification, because part of the whole design of these live notifications was, okay, you got a mail application and you want to know when you have mail even if you close that browser tab, right? And it makes sense if that's the only use. But if it's just a random shopping site, why would I need notifications other than, let's say I really want tracking, but it'll never be just tracking, right? It'll be a lot of other stuff. And
Yes.
your computer is pinging that website again and again and again just to check, do you have anything new for me? Or I am ready for your notification. So keep in mind that answering yes is basically keeping your web browser active all the time. It is communicating all the time. Um, if you do not see a use for that, just answer no, and check your browser settings. There's also a place in your browser setting, depending on the browser, where you can see all of the places you've actually approved, and you can remove those. So if you're getting random noise, that's where you need to look.
You should go and remove all the cookies periodically.
It's not just cookies, right? I'm talking about
Yeah.
the permission to
Yeah.
get notification. I think it's a lot worse than cookies.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Netgear. Netgear has fixed a high severity vulnerability affecting multiple Wi Fi router models and advised customers to update their devices to the latest available firmware as soon as possible. The flow impacts multiple wireless AC Nighthawk, wireless AX Nighthawk, Wi Fi 6, and wireless AC router model.
Wow.
On their website, they have all the models. Although Netgear did not disclose any information about the component affected by this bug or its impact, it did say that it is a pre-authentication buffer overflow vulnerability. The impact of a successful buffer overflow exploitation can range from crashes following denial of service to arbitrary code execution if code execution is achieved during the attack. So, if you have a Netgear,
Check.
go ahead and update it. If you have any
That's always good.
router that is on its standard that you didn't change the operating system on, then you should update it.
What's nice about a lot of the new routers now, most of them come with this where you can just say check for updates.
Yep.
When you go in. Used to be I had to go and look at the number and then go to the website. Well, I have this one, but it's not. I download it now. You don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
Did you see the vulnerability with the Google Home speakers?
No.
There's a so what's happening is that people can sniff the Wi-Fi connection to it and look for the packets that are the Google packets, and by identifying the MAC address, send a deauth message to the speaker and then reestablish a connection to it. And once they do that, they've basically added another user, and they can turn on and off the microphone and listen to your conversation.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Hold on. First, they need access to your Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Well, yes, but they can your Wi-Fi. You don't have to necessarily be. Let's see. Let me read. It says attacker wishes to spy on a victim within a wireless proximity of a Google Home does not have to have the Wi-Fi victim's password. Attacker discovers a victim's Google Home by listening for MAC addresses with prefixes associated with Google. Attacker sends deauth packets to disconnect the device from the network and to put it into setup mode. So setup mode means its own Wi-Fi.
But that's what I'm. There's a leap there that is completely missing. How does it listen to the MAC address, right, on an encrypted Wi-Fi connection? It doesn't. It
have to have a Wi-Fi hacking tool.
There
are tools that let you listen.
Is it possible that the ad hoc Wi-Fi network that's running is how it's being done? Because the Google Home will create an ad hoc network for you to set it up, and that device that it's still enabled somehow. Because that's how you configure.
Right, but they're
Home.
talking about deauth. It's already authenticated, so it's not doing that.
But maybe it is, and maybe instead of it being what it sounds like to me is instead of broadcasting the network of Google Home _2.4, it's broadcasting MAC addresses, and the manufacturer of the device knows what MAC address it is based on you can tell what the device is based on the MAC address, and then they're able to use that MAC address to sniff the network and send those packets. So it's not broadcasting the signal on 2.4 gigahertz, but it is still broadcasting a network.
He's using a tool called Nmap Scan.
That's just a regular.
Right. And he's fine. And using that, he says he found the ports, the local HTTP API for Google, and then using he set up a proxy
How
to
did he
capture
get access to the network?
He's not on
That's like low. Come on, if he's doing an Nmap port, oh wait, he's doing it from the outside.
He's connecting to the device through its MAC address, essentially, and then Nmap scanning that and sending. It's what it sounds like, and then sending those deauthorization packets, like you would if you did a factory reset of it, for example.
So he's connected to, but okay, so he's still connected to the network somehow, right? What I'm trying to understand is because they're talking about wirelessly. So I'm outside. I'm outside the home. Okay. I wanna listen in on one of the devices. So I want to do a DAuth. In order to do the DAuth, I need to be connected to that network somehow. If they're talking about
Well, what he's saying, he's somehow finding out a way to send a
That's
packet to it to go into setup mode, which means it's now the access
right,
point. So I don't
that's
know
the
that
how
part I
that
understand.
vulnerability.
That
how,
part is
right.
concerning. The
But
part that from
yeah,
within the network, somebody can reset that without having the passwords or the
yeah.
authentication process going through. That part is concerning. What I'm trying to understand is, can this be done wirelessly without being hooked up to the local network?
Right.
Now, if I had an open Wi-Fi network, for example, or an open Wi-Fi connection, yes, definitely. But then we know that shouldn't be the case. Something's fishy. It's interesting. I'll definitely read about it, because if there is a vulnerability there, I mean, it exposes so many people. So
So this
Google
is
has
what they're
already
doing.
published a fix for it.
Yeah, so this was part of their vulnerability. This wasn't public.
Yeah.
This was part of their vulnerability testing. This guy got paid $107,000
Yeah.
for it.
Wow.
And it wasn't
And
new. It wasn't, this just happened we first discovered it back in April.
yeah, earlier this year. Yeah.
And he reported it to Google, and then they awarded him the money because of what he found.
So a rooted Android phone and a GitHub script and a modified version of the Google Home app is what is allowing this to happen. It mentions nothing about being connected via Wi-Fi. So I think the problem was that Google was still broadcasting something, even though it may have not been the SSID,
Yeah.
something that allowed
yeah,
this device to allow something that was allowing this device's packets to be grabbed and then changed.
yeah,
Wow.
Pretty
sounds
amazing.
like that. Yeah,
Well, he deserves the money because I think about what it took to do this. So
Yeah.
they published it
The user
on
just
GitHub.
the user does not need to be on Wi-Fi. They just need to be within wireless proximity of the device and listen for MAC addresses with prefixes associated with Google.
Wow.
Pretty amazing.
Oh, well.
yep, yep. Interesting, definitely.
All right. Trade groups that represent Meta and Alphabet's Google said they asked the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn a Texas law that would sharply restrict the editorial discretion of social media companies. The appeal by NetChoice and the Computer and Communications Industry Association contends the Texas law violates the First Amendment by forcing social media companies to disseminate what they see as harmful speech and putting platforms at risk of being overrun by spam and bullying. The law would wreak havoc by requiring transformational changes to websites operations, the group argues. The New Orleans based Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the law in September, but left the measure on hold to allow time for an appeal to the Supreme Court. Now, the Texas law bars social media platforms with more than 50 million users from discriminating on the basis of a viewpoint. Texas government Greg Abbott and other Republicans say the law is needed to protect conservative voices from being silenced. The appeal adds a new layer to the Supreme Court term that could reshape the legal rules for online content. The justices are already considering opening social media companies to lawsuits over the targeted recommendations they make to users. I think something like this, it's time for something like this to actually be across the board.
Oh, this is a tough one. This is a
I
real
know.
tough one because now you've got the government involvement in this, and I'm almost always against that. But it comes in, but the conversation has been over Section 230 and some of these other things. Are these are these platforms publishers? And
Right.
they are seemingly acting as publishers. And whether you like Elon Musk or not, if you can't ignore some of the things that have been released, or if you do, you're disingenuous and you're not being serious about it.
The thing is, you can't
It
hide
is proven
behind.
that that is exactly what was going.
Well,
And the question is this self-policing that needs to be done, or does the government do it? And I would venture that the government probably has no business doing it, because everything they touch is a
but
disaster.
self-policing
Case in
doesn't
point-
work.
What?
Self-policing didn't
Well,
work.
yeah, but self-policing doesn't work because the users aren't leaving. Conservatives have been bitching and complaining about Facebook and Twitter for years, yet they still use them. So it's like saying I hate computers 2K now, yet I set my alarm for 8:30 every single Sunday morning to wake up and do it. I mean, obviously I don't hate it. I mean, it just
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. So there's yet to be the mass exodus, if you will, that has hurt these companies. Facebook is seeing it. Let me be clear. Facebook is seeing it. It's not because of political stuff. It's just because their stock was down 63%, I think, in 2022. Year to throughout the whole year, they had one of the worst stock performances on the whole market this year. A lot of that was because of their ridiculous endeavor into Meta, which they spent billions of dollars on and have nothing to show for.
To be clear, the performance of the stock before that never made sense, right?
No.
So it's finally making sense. That's all.
Yeah, I struggle with this one a lot, Amnon. I look at, and it's not an apples to apples comparison, but I look at what you're muted.
I muted
you. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking. You were sorry. I look at a situation like Southwest Airlines this past week, an industry that is so heavily regulated by the government, the FAA and NTSB and TSA and all of this other stuff, and how much of an abysmal disaster it is. And it's not the first time that this has happened. It seemingly is happening every major holiday. And I'm not saying that there's not other elements to it. There are. But it just goes to show you that this involvement of a higher authority or a higher power doesn't mean jack shit, because it doesn't change anything.
Yeah, because Buttigieg
same
came
thing.
out right away, came out to criticize Southwest. It's
Right.
like, well, then
You think if the transportation secretary called the CEO of Southwest, what's he going to say? We're going to do what to you? Nothing. The CEO will just laugh at it and hang up the phone, because there's nothing that they can do.
they're
It's
apparently the pilots
farcical.
union, the pilots union president and the pilots association presidents have both come forward to say, we've been saying this for years, that their system is so antiquated it cannot respond well.
Okay,
they
so-
said pilots.
But
scheduling all
imagine that something that's got
Yeah.
such heavy government insight that when a couple of planes miss what happened is a couple of planes missed their departures and arrivals, and the whole system crumbled to pieces.
And so pilots don't know where to come to work, whether they can go to work.
Well,
Yeah.
the
And that's
thing is-
all under a heavily regulated
So
industry. It's
so
just-
here it is. It may be. I mean, every industry needs to be regulated to a point, but whether by the government or not is a different story. But
regulation only comes from government. Let's be clear.
well, then I would think that the regulating them should also include technical stuff. Look, you guys need to have the latest or up to par systems over there to service the public, to service your fleets. You can't stay on a IBM XT or a CPM machine to do that with. That is a regulation. Okay, you want to be an airline? You need to have an up-to-date system. So what are they regulating right now? However,
They regulate how many hours they
airworthiness.
can fly.
Yeah.
whole thing.
Airworthiness, the planes themselves, the
right.
safety.
But if the system is failing, then all the other regulations are meaningless.
Yeah, but that's what they do. This is not the first. And guess what?
Yeah.
And when Southwest gets in trouble, they'll be bailed out by the federal government, just like they were last time.
Yeah.
I'm not getting into a big government conversation here. It's just the reality
Yeah.
of when you regulate something, but you don't actually regulate any of the useful. Flying is a Gal has been recently traveling, and Gal, you've spent a lot more times overseas. It's nothing like flying in the United States is. Flying domestically is nothing like it is flying elsewhere.
Mm,
From what perspective?
flying internationally and flying domestically is different, right? But then again, you go into Europe, into the low cost market, and it's looking very similar.
Yeah, they
So
pulled a lot of their uh, customs regulation, not well scaled back on them. So it's a lot easier to pass through customs and immigration now, going to Europe.
Talking about flying.
I'm just
That's
talking
what I
about
mean.
the experience. I mean, I got in an argument with a TSA guy over a bottle of soap that is um I bought from the store that is a travel proof size because of God forbid I brought more than 6 ounces of liquid, I would blow the whole plane up or some ridiculous nonsense. Just the whole experience sucks. And this is one of the this is one of the most regulated industries in the United States. As spent and in some aspects, that's good. Safety and all of that stuff, great. But the rest of the experience is a disaster,
Yeah.
an unmitigated freaking disaster. And it's the same thing over and over again. Every holiday that comes forward, it's the same nonsense. So I'm not convinced that if the government gets involved in speech on these platforms, that it won't be any different.
Yeah. All right.
I wish I was wrong, but I just don't.
Yeah, you
I've seen
probably
nothing to
aren't.
indicate that. I've seen
Yeah.
nothing to indicate that it would be
One
successful.
of the comments that came up when I was reading the article about the Pilots Association was that it isn't pilots running the airline. It's people come in when they buy, company gets bought out, it's finance people that are doing it. It's not, but when it's something like that, transportation, that's, that you could, if the plane falls out of the sky, you got a problem. When you're driving down the road and your car stops, you pull off to the side of the road. But a plane, you need to have, you need to have people who understand flying be running the company, understanding schedules and how pilots work with each other and all that. So that's, they said, a problem with Southwest was the people that are running the company are people that are accountants. They're not pilots. Not that I'm saying pilots have that skill, but they need to be part of the planning. And that's what
But from a
the Pilots Association was saying. They're not including us in developing tools to make this work better. So
and from the other aspect of it, and again, safety, you mentioned, yes, side of the road, car pull off, plane falls out of the sky, you're dead. I mean, in 9 out of 10 cases. But because of the government over regulation, in my opinion, now there's no option, right? There's really not. There's no. There's a couple major airlines. That's it. Because you can't. There's no competition really.
futurists are saying it's going to be personal drones. And
I just
I laugh at that because it's like, when are you going to build an air traffic control system, no matter whether you have AI or not, that's going to be able to handle thousands of personal flights in an area? It's hard enough now to do it with general aviation intermixing with commercial aviation.
Yeah.
It's like, how are you going to, oh, I have a personal drone coming to pick me up at my house and take me to work. I don't see it happening easily.
I guess you
but
fly below a
that's-
certain
yeah.
level and maybe, but I don't know.
All right. Let's dive into this. For many years, U.S. lawmakers have considered options to update the DMCA so it can more effectively deal with today's online copyright issues. Many proposals have come and gone without resulting in any significant updates. Calls to change current legislation persist. However, following repeated nudges from Senators Tom Tillis and Patrick Leahy, the Copyright Office launched a consultation on automated tools that online services can use to ensure that pirated content is less easily shared. The Copyright Office also asks stakeholders whether it's desirable to make certain standard technical measures mandatory for online platforms. Such measures could include upload filters to block pirated content from being re uploaded. Now, this month, the Copyright Office presents its conclusions, which are also shared with the senators. After reviewing thousands of responses and input from stakeholders in plenary sessions, the overall conclusion is one of clear disagreement. Most parties agree that it's impossible to design an error free takedown process, but disagree on what error rate is acceptable when takedowns are automated. Opponents of filtering technology warn that fair use and First Amendment rights are at stake. So they can't come up with anything about how to stop piracy. And
Who is this?
this is the US lawmakers.
The government.
The Copyright Office. Yeah, the Copyright.
Wow.
Yeah.
Color me shocked.
Right. Well, if this was left to the users, then piracy will be all over, Nick, right? Unless the companies are going to make things more friendly
If
toward the
this
user.
would be left to the users, the companies
Yeah.
would price things
Right.
reasonably.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Netflix did more for piracy in probably 2 or 3 years than
To curb
piracy.
Yeah.
In 2 or 3 years than any advocacy group or any regulation or anything has done in 30 plus years, because they made it at the time an affordable. Spotify is a great example of somebody that's actively doing it. They make streaming music so cheap in retrospect that it's not worth
Right.
torrenting a whole album just to grab one song to load it into iTunes to sync it to your phone. It's a pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
So you pay $8.99 a month and you can stream anything you want wherever, as long as you have an internet connection. And even if you don't, you can, if you have Spotify Premium, you can download your music. And if not, you don't even want to pay for it. You just have to listen to ads.
And
They've
somebody's
done more for anti-piracy than the EFF or any of these other groups have ever done, because they made it affordable to do. Which is, Gal's mentioned this a whole bunch, that you're going to see a huge uptick in piracy with these ridiculous pricings from these streaming services.
Yeah, and even with those cheap prices, the
It's not cheap.
artists and all that are making some money.
Oh yeah, Spotify. Yeah. Now it's not what they're making. It's not what they were making on record
Yeah.
sales,
Right.
but it is still, for popular artists, millions of dollars.
Yep.
Every
right.
industry, right, that is worried that some sort of technology is going to disrupt the industry, right? They're basically just crybabying. I am not going to make 2 million where I'm going to make a million. Profits are
Oh.
going to go down, but right, everything is going to be spread a lot more evenly, a lot more across the spectrum. Control is going to be less centralized. And every time we see it, right, is we are supposed, as the consumer, we are supposed to sit behind, right, and 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 worry what is going to happen to these big, large companies that shouldn't have grown to the size they were, right, in the first place. Now, I know I am risking, right, sounding very, very socialistic, very, very not very capitalistic, but even as as a consumer living in a capitalist market, right? I need to care about myself, not about another big company. So through them, literally,
Mhm.
right? That is exactly my point here.
All right. Okay. Now, what do you guys think about the Free Software Foundation?
uh,
The who?
an interesting. I don't know how they work.
Free
I know
Software Foundation. Okay, so listen to this.
Richard Stallman, GNU, basically.
Oh, okay.
For the
Yeah.
last 13 years, the Free Software Foundation has published its Ethical Tech Giving Guide. But what's interesting in this year's guide also tags companies and products with negative recommendations to stay away from. So here's the list of stay away from. iPhones. It's not just Siri that's creepy. It's Apple devices contain software that's hostile to users. Although they claim to be concerned about user privacy, they don't hesitate to put their users under surveillance. Apple prevents you from installing third-party free software on your own phone. And they use this control to censor apps that compete with or subvert Apple's profits. Apple has a history of exploiting their absolute control over their users to silence political activists and help governments spy on millions of users.
Yeah, they're talking about Apple's compliancy with China's laws.
Stay away from. Number 2, M1 MacBooks and MacBooks Pro. Mac OS is proprietary software that restricts its users' freedoms. In November 2020, Mac OS was caught alerting Apple each time a user opened an app. Even though Apple is making changes to the service, it just goes to show how bad they try to be until there is an outcry. Comes crawling with spyware that rats you out to advertisers. I never used one of those, so I don't know. Here's stay away from number 3, Amazon. Amazon is one of the most notorious DRM offenders. They use this Orwellian control over their devices and services to spy on users and keep them trapped in their walled garden. Be aware that Amazon isn't the peddler of ebook DRM. Disturbingly, it's enthusiastically supported by most of the big publishing houses. Another stay away, Spotify, Apple Music, and other major streaming services, in addition to streaming music and encumbered by DRM, people who want to use Spotify are required to install additional proprietary software. Even Spotify client or GNU Linux relies on proprietary software. Apple Music is no better and places heavy restrictions on the music stream through the platform. Another stay away from, Netflix. Netflix is continuing its disturbing trend of making onerous DRM the norm for streaming media. That's why they were targeted for last year's International Day Against DRM. They're also leveraging their place in the Motion Picture Association of America to advocate for tighter restrictions on users and drove the effort to embed DRM into the fabric of the web. This is an interesting list of to stay away from that I don't think we do.
No,
it's almost like a joke.
Understand, it's not a joke.
No, it's not.
You need to understand what the Free Software Foundation is all about, right? This is something that was started by Richard Stallman, the person behind the GNU, and it's a manifesto. The Free Software Foundation has a very, very clear set of guidelines of what is good software and what is bad. So any technology basically that restricts users and leaves makes whatever they do opaque to the user is bad free software. Free as in freedom here, not necessarily as they always do. Free as in freedom, as in speech versus free as in beer, right? It's like a comparison of materialistic free and conceptually free. So they're focusing on the conceptually free. In their eyes, everything should be open in technology. And so that's where that lists come from. Does it match reality in this world? No. But that's what that foundation is about. And the stuff that comes out of the Free Software Foundation is terrific as software tools, but the ideology does not really match reality. That's all. So everything needs to be taken with a grain of salt, but the ideology is definitely what drives the Free Software Foundation.
All right.
And
And
even if you use them, use content from them, for example, Linux, right, which is GNU licensed.
Mhm.
Linux, the Linux kernel is, if I recall correctly, it is on version 2 of the GNU license, which the most popular one right now is version 3. And the reason they've never, Linus Torvalds talked about it openly, he will not move to the version 3 of the license because it restricts the way cooperation um, and collaborative work can be done on the Linux kernel. And it basically, if they would have done that, then none of the routers we're seeing, none of the uh, um, um, tools that we're seeing out in the market today, which rely on Linux, they could not exist because the moment you package them with something closed source or something proprietary, then the license don't match, and there's a whole legal issue to go into. So Stallman is very, very, very extreme in his opinions about what software and how software should look like, right? And the rest of the world is still exists.
Mhm.
I'm not saying he's completely wrong. He's a very intelligent human being. He has very good points, but the world has advanced and it is probably not going to go back, whether it's good or bad, right? I mean, we all need to make our own decisions. You can try and live like Stallman. He, compared to today, he's basically a shutout, right? He does not use these tools,
Right.
right? He definitely walks the talk, but he is an oddball, right? He is perceived as a very, very eccentric individual in this realm of software and, and the gurus
Well,
around them.
yep. Any other?
By the way, he's not wrong, not one single bit about the description of these companies and how they operate, right?
Right, but
He is
we
taking a stance around that, but the description is accurate. So if you really want to know and understand the problems, right, that these companies present, definitely follow those lists in gathering data. They are accurate.
well,
All I'd say is all of that stuff is great. And as Gall rightfully said, he walks the walk and talks the talk, but for everybody else, it's not, you, there's not a lot of solution there. It's just,
right.
all these services are bad. It's like, okay, great.
Right. I mean, yeah, the air around us is polluted and everything. But we have to keep breathing. You can't say, hey,
Well,
anyway.
and now,
Yeah,
to be fair, though, he
look,
does attempt to do something with his foundation. He's not just yelling and
Oh, no,
screaming
no.
from the tree
Yeah.
that everything is bad, but it's, I don't know. It just feels like this is very much the libertarian stance of technology. It's just everything is awful, you know, and that's fine. Um, but I just don't believe it does much use, which is I think why you don't hear a lot about the Free Software Foundation. I mean, they're popular. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, but you don't hear about them like. I mean, they've been around a long time. I think going back to what, the 90s.
Well, they were
Um,
saying that for the last 13 years they've been publishing this. I don't know
No.
how long they've been out there.
Oh, they've been publishing this
Oh,
list
yeah.
for the last 13
Yeah,
years, but
yeah.
they've been around since the 90s.
So-
80s.
Okay. So even more than
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
go ahead
They've,
and
yeah.
if you're interested in all this, go ahead and read about it and see if you can follow anything. Let us know.
burn your iPhone, cancel your Netflix subscription, just
Right.
continue with all.
All right, this is the last thing, and I'm not familiar with all this, so I don't know how true that is. The writer says every major phone manufacturer is guilty of a serious crime, and I won't be quiet about it any longer. They stole the power button from us. Apple, Google, Samsung, guilty, guilty, guilty. Long pressing the power button used to bring up an option to turn your phone off. But then these companies decided to get cute and make this a shortcut to summon their digital assistant. This is bad and wrong. And I'm politely demanding that these companies return what they took from us. So, is it true that new phones? I mean, who's got a new phone? I mean, new phone.
It doesn't need to be new. It's like it's been going on for probably 5 years.
No, mine, was it Motorola is
Yeah.
still, it works. I mean, it's right. So I'm wondering what happens if you have to reboot if you want to reboot.
You just press longer.
Oh,
Instead of 4 seconds, it's like 20 seconds, and then it'll actually
Jeez.
force stop. Yeah. I
Oh.
mean, it's a feature, not a bug, right? It's like
obviously.
Whether that's what he's complaining about, the fact
Well,
that I
that-
can't take out the battery.
No,
Come on, it's like
no,
that
no,
seems a lot more basic to me.
But here, listen to this with my experience with my phone, which is about 3 years old. Many times I see that it's kind of misbehaving, so I'll shut it down and start it again. Once it starts, suddenly I get notices about signal and about texts that I've never seen when it comes back up. I'm saying, why didn't I get these before? Obviously, something is wrong. But the thing is that it's important to do that, apparently. I mean, to me, I'm not going to just go and buy a new one. So I'll restart my phone 2-3 times a week. But it is amazing. I don't know what's going on inside it, but if I couldn't reset it like that, or not reset, but restart it, reboot it, whatever, then it'll be a problem. And I wonder how many.
That's not. I mean, I don't care how well technology is.
Mhm.
Even an aeroplane,
Yeah.
right, can be shut down
Yeah.
and can be
Right.
restarted.
So from his
So,
article here, it looks like there is no way to restart the phone.
that's
And
he
it
hasn't
didn't-
researched
that's why I
enough.
said
That's all.
Okay.
I actually
It's
had
not
a
as
situation.
accessible as it used to be. That's true.
All right. What'd you say, Nick?
I had a situation a couple of weeks ago where my phone actually froze.
Yeah.
And on the old iPhones, you used to be able to hold down the
The home button.
power
button.
button. Yeah, and the home button, the power button, or something like that for
Reset it,
15
yeah.
seconds. Now the new one is, I think, volume up, power button, something like that, and it didn't work. And I was freaking out. And then I looked up, Apple had there was like a second hard reset, and it was like volume up, volume down, volume up, volume down, power button, and that eventually
Jeez.
worked. Well, but the point is they have an option to do it. It's funny, everybody wants the sleek, hot thing, but they still want headphone jacks and they still want dedicated
Yeah.
power buttons. Like those things don't exist in the same universe. You if you want your phone to look like it did 10 years ago, you absolutely can do it. But you're not going to have a phone with no bezel on it and, you know, a sleek looking device with a headphone jack. And there's already 4 buttons on the iPhone, not including the home button. 5 if you included a physical home button. You're just going to keep adding buttons to it. I mean,
Moving parts, yeah.
well, I mean, and here's the thing on Android tablets for decades now, a decade, it's been very common to have soft buttons. Many Android tablets have 3 buttons: lock, volume up, and volume down. That's it. That has been commonplace for Android tablets and some Android phones, but more specifically, your cheaper end Android tablets. They just don't have physical buttons. They have 3 buttons. That's it. They're fine. You don't need a physical button for home, multitasking, and back. You can do that via software, and it works fine. Apple's home button's been gone for years. I was originally hesitant of it, but now that I've got it, I don't know what I would do if there was a home button, because I'm just so used to not using it.
It's because they are evil and they brainwashed us.
They have. I mean, I've mentioned multiple times, if it weren't for iMessage, I wouldn't have an iPhone, but they've got me by the balls with iMessage. So that's the platform I'm going to stick with.
Oh.
Well,
Anyway.
we got Beeper now.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah, not. I mean, yeah. I'm not sure I'm going to throw my. No offense to the good folks over at Beeper, but I don't think I'm going to throw all of my eggs into the Beeper basket. No offense.
Yeah, no, I know.
So
Anyway,
there you go.
what?
I said, there you go.
All right, it's this time of day. It's actually later than that time of day, but it's all right.
Didn't you hear that starting in 2023, hours are now 70 minutes,
Oh,
not 60 minutes?
Yeah, new government
that's the
regulation.
change.
Yeah.
That's it. The government changed it. So
My analog clock with the hands on it are screwed.
that's it. You have to get it.
Upgrade.
What you do is you just paint the whole surface of the clock white, and you're drawing 14 instead of
what about the clock with the hand?
hands on it.
You have 70 minutes. It's not going to work.
Yeah, you have to
It's gonna be
really
10
change
minutes
the
ahead.
phone around.
Well, actually, I'll be 10 minutes ahead. Then I'll be 20 minutes ahead. Before you know, I'll be days ahead. I'll be like Australia.
This was just a
Living
big
in the
lobby
future.
by the clock industry. Try to get all the
Big
analog
clock,
clocks
as they
replaced.
say.
Did we ever talk about the what is it? 30-hour day?
No. Where?
Search for it. There's a complete movement. I mean, I'm sure it's niche, right? But there is a movement of people who are trying to advocate for a 30-hour day, and they have a complete plan on how it will look like and why it's good and blah 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 blah. It's an interesting read.
That's got to be like a 50-minute hour or something like that, or a 45-minute hour.
No. They're talking about the same measurement of time of an hour, just instead of 24 hours, 30. And yes, it extends beyond the natural daylight cycle. And they explain why it's a good idea. It's like, yeah, it's something very bizarre.
Are they linked to the Flat Earth Society?
No, I think they are actually very, very intellectualizing a concept. Sure, it's part tongue in cheek, but it's like they are citing circadian cycles. They're citing a lot of information, and I remember it was like an interesting rabbit hole to fall through. So
Damn, I'm having a hard time staying up at the day as it is.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
I think we should.
maybe you
not-
need to switch to the 30 hours a day, and everything will be much better.
Much
I
better.
think the one thing we could do that would make a big difference right now is get rid of changing our time zones twice a year. Just figure it out and just
Yeah.
stay there.
That will happen in my lifetime.
They see now the medical.
It happened
evidence.
in several,
several
but
countries.
you
have already
do
done it.
know that the states that took it off are now advocating to bring it back.
Really?
So it's not an all or nothing. There are those who are for and those who are against, and there's no single right choice here. So it is what it is at this point. It's like it doesn't really matter which way we go. There's issues with that, and there's issues with this.
Oh well. Let's keep the day on the happy side. All right. Anything else? Spence, Nick? Nothing.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. All right. So thanks, Nick. Thanks, God. Thank you, Spence. And Happy New Year. And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie and Donna, Dina, Mati, Eleanor, Sarid, Yaakov, and Yael. Thank you, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing. Back up your hard drive and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. And again, remember, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., Nick is on Wilmington's 980 The Wave and 107.9 FM with his daily news show. You can tell your Echo device to play 980 The Wave, and you can listen to him. And I meant to ask you, Nick, will that happen anywhere in the world? Or
Yes.
is it limited?
Anywhere in the world should be fine. You can also listen on, if you're in Wilmington, on 102.7 FM HD2.
Oh, okay.
And I'm off tomorrow, so I'll be back on Tuesday. The fog clears. Everybody will be informed again starting Tuesday morning at 6 o'clock.
All right. And if you don't want to listen to it live or you don't have the time to listen to it live, you can go to the recordings at nickcraig.com. Also, Tuesdays at 7 p.m., Nick and Brian do the Infection Podcast. It's a survival game podcast and gaming news on Twitch. So 7 p.m. Tuesday evening, twitch.tv/Infection Podcast. So go ahead, everybody, make it a great year, and we'll see you next week.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.